Hello and welcome to 3 Minute Gaming. I'm Nathan, and today I'm going to tell you if this game's worth their time and bandwidth.
Today's game is Yakuza 6, The Song of Life. The once final story in the Kiryu saga, Yakuza 6 marks a new engine and a new series of trouble for our scowly-faced karaoke boy. Does his saga end satisfyingly? Let's find out. Yakuza 6, The Song of Life is the final numbered Yakuza game starring Kiryu and was meant to be a send-off ending his story with the Toho clan, Haruka, and the orphanage. Kiryu once again lands himself in jail for a few years after the end of Yakuza 5 and returns to find Haruka has run away from the orphanage and got in a horrible accident that's left her comatose. She was injured protecting a baby, Haruto, who is believed to be her son. Kiryu, obviously not pleased with all this, immediately switches to grandpa mode and heads out with Haruto to Onomichi, Hiroshima, where he hopes to find the baby's father and uncover why someone would hurt Haruka. It's a compelling story with a strong start. Rather than have Kiryu's old buddies be around for most of his final chapter, it instead focuses on new characters, all of which are pretty great, and ties into themes of passing the torch. In terms of gameplay, there's been quite a few changes too. This was the first Dragon Engine game, which means hilarious physics ragdolling, paired with absolutely gorgeous locations. You have two to tromp around in this time, Onomichi and Kamurocho, with plenty of side stories to do and people to beat up. XP is like Kiwami 2, or rather Kiwami 2 is like this. We have multiple XP categories, and the secret to getting most of it is finding food combinations. Combat also has a few tweaks from its predecessors, though it's ultimately pretty basic. Heat is no longer a meter and is instead individual charges, which means you can do more heat actions in combat. Super Heat from 5 is also back, where Kiryu goes Goblin mode, though this one is somehow more broken. There's also less side content overall, with the 3 big minigames being a baseball management sim that kind of runs itself, Clan Wars, which is a bit of a reverse tower defense, and a surprisingly charming dialogue bar where Kiryu tries to make friends. The last one isn't much of a game, but it fits the theme and I found it very relaxing. Also, I should mention the fishing minigame is now a light gun game and it rules. Yeah, honestly, that is Yakuza 6. I'll go into more detail on the pros and cons. While arguably has less side content than previous Yakuzas, the game does have a much more personal story this time around with its focus on ending Kiryu's arc. So what do I like about Yakuza 6? Well, I loved this game's characters, particularly the new Hiroshima Yakuza boys, as they're a delight, and Kiryu taking the role of grandfather for Haruto is great for both character development and weirdly cute. Also, Akiyama is in it, so that's good too. Additionally, Onomichi is easily my favorite Yakuza location. It's so incredibly well realized and extremely charming, has a fantastic layout to explore, all of the details of a small Japanese town, and a freaking cable car. What more do you want? And lastly, I felt this game really nailed the story themes it was going for. The villains are something Kiryu hasn't faced in the past, enemies without any moral code or honor, and the contrast between old and new, as well as old guard versus new blood Yakuza, permeates every interaction in the game. This game has a lot of subtext going on, and it really strengthens the story. When it comes to the bad, there's definitely some Dragon Engine jank here, with bugs, weird ragdolls, and more. And since it's not a new engine, they end up cutting a lot of stuff rather than converting it over, particularly where is the UFO catcher. Additionally, as mentioned, the combat is much more stripped down when compared to other games with only one style and fewer moves, and even removing stuff like ground heat actions. Plus, the new Super Heat mode trivializes every boss. It makes combat pretty uninteresting pretty quick. And lastly, while I love the story, there's a few things that bothered me. I was disappointed that Haruka is basically in a coma for 90% of the game. While I loved what the villains represented, they were kind of lacking as actual characters. It stands out more considering how well developed and written all of the new side characters are. As you know, rate games here on a 3-point scale, must play, may we consider, and don't bother. And while it may lack the tons of side content that other games have, and has some of the series' most mid-combat, Yakuza 6 more than makes up for it with its fantastic characters, emotional story, strong themes of old versus new, and a great new location. I thoroughly enjoyed it from start to finish and felt it was an excellent conclusion to Kiryu's story, and tugged on the heartstrings in all the right ways. If you played through the series in order, this is an excellent send-off, and one I can highly recommend. And that's all I have for you today. Thank you so much for watching. If you played Yakuza 6, do you like Yakuza 6? I learned after the fact this game's a little polarizing among fans, which surprised me, so I definitely want to hear your take in the comments, but regardless, go out there and give Yakuza 6 a look.